Hey, Next Levelers, Bob Gibbons here. Excited to be talking to another great entrepreneur, somebody who's created something out of nothing. And you know what? That's what entrepreneurs do every day. We see entrepreneurs, business people get lambasted in the media a lot of times for doing things that they shouldn't do, but that's just the exception. And people we have on this show have been doing good things and building companies, growing companies, and providing jobs and being good general citizens of the world. And today's no exception. So today our guest is Cassy Lawson. And Cassy is the founder of Lawson Event Rentals. And you can find them at lawsoneventrentals.com. And they're an event rental company, kind of exactly what the name says. It's nice to actually have a company that the name says exactly what you do.
We did that on purpose, I think.
Well, welcome to the show, Cassy. So, yeah, we've had people on the show in the past that have some name that you just have absolutely no clue what they do. And it's sometimes confusing. It sounds like a cool name, but so what? I mean, what does it mean?
Right. We actually, when I was creating the domain, LawsonEventRentals.com, and it was super long, I had a couple of people second guess me on that. And I was like, no, if we just are called Lawson Events, who knows? Like, we could have a venue. We could, You're
producing the events or whatever.
We could be making dresses for an event. Who knows? We have to have event rentals so they know these are items they're renting and they're giving back.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. You know, when I named my company, it's called Reata, R-E-A-T-A, Reata Commercial Realty. And that's a long thing to put in a URL or put on the end of an email. And I did for years. And in fact, it still works. But I changed it to Texas Tenant Rep because it's more descriptive of what we do. And it's just easier for people to spell it. But in your case, you have the benefit of it's descriptive and it's easy to get to spell.
Right.
So how did you have to play with the name for a while before you came up with the website that worked?
No, it's funny because I went back and forth. The only reason I didn't want to name the company Lawson Event Rentals is because it just felt a little presumptuous, a little like
because it was your name.
Because it was my name. Like I wanted to build something that wasn't about me necessarily. But when we just kept thinking of all these other names, everything just seemed kind of like cheesy. And so finally we were just like, well, my last name's always going to be Lawson, so let's just go with it.
Well, now if it had been Cassy Lawson Event Rentals, then I can see that being a little narcissistic.
Right.
But not Lawson. That's not too bad.
Okay, good, because that's what we chose.
Yeah, I always wondered about that. I didn't want a company named after myself because I thought that it'd be more difficult to sell. But when you think about it, there are so many companies out there that have somebody's name on it. I mean, Abby Halliday Realtors. I mean, she's not even with us anymore, and yet it's still fine.
Right.
So I don't think it's as big a deal as we sometimes make it out to be. But I do like the idea of naming it a name that is descriptive of what the business is. That makes a lot of sense. So why event rentals? How did you get into that business?
Well, if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I would have been doing this, I would have not even guessed this. If you would give me 100 guesses.
High school still.
No. But a lot of things led to other things. So I actually don't have a degree in business. I have both my degrees in music.
Really?
And I thought I was going to be a college voice professor and do that for the rest of my life.
So your instrument was voice?
My instrument was voice. And so I finished my master's in opera and music theater.
Oh, my gosh.
And
Wait a minute. Sing something for us.
No, I can't.
Come on now. Opera, you got a whole degree on this thing, and yet you're getting all shy on me now?
Well, that was in a former life. I do sing a lot to my kids now. They just get to...
Okay. Church, anything?
Yes, I sing at church, but that's about it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought I was going to be a college voice professor and get my doctorate, and I started teaching as an adjunct professor after getting my master's. I was about 25, and I did that for about a year and a half and realized I did not want to do that for the rest of my life.
Really? And the teaching part of it was...
The teaching part of it, right.
So the performance you liked?
I loved performing,
being part of a group that was performing, that was good?
I love doing shows. But and then some life changes happened. I actually ended up, through the course of Hurricane Katrina, I ended up helping some refugees that had come here, and our church decided to pick up that model, and they asked me to come on staff and lead like an outreach program we were doing, and then that led to a full-time job in ministry eventually.
Oh, wow.
And I was in ministry for about 7 years. And in ministry, I was actually doing a lot of event planning. Like I was doing all of our large church-wide, it was a fairly large church, and so a lot of church-wide events. And I just was realizing I really liked events. That was something I was good at. I could, sing big picture. And then we, in the course of that, I was also working with families a lot. I was a new mom myself. We had 3 babies in 4 years.
Oh, my.
And so I decided to start, that was my first business, and I decided to start this company called Project Mom. And we did that, and that went for a couple of years. And
What was Project Mom all about?
it was if you think of like professional development that people do for their jobs, well, this was professional development for moms. So they would go to these one-day conferences. They would have speakers. We would have sponsors.
How to be a mom, how to be a better mom.
Yeah, how to be a
get
better
your
mom.
husband to do what you want him to do.
Well, it was for all moms of all walks of life. And so we'd have single moms and married moms and stay-at-home moms and working moms. And so you could kind of pick your track of what you wanted to do and what you wanted to get better at and you would, there were breakout speakers. So you would pick your breakouts, and then we had large sessions, and we did this in a couple of different markets. And so obviously that I got a lot of event experience.
Huge events. And what a great mission too, by the way.
Right.
I mean, I wish somebody would have been there doing those kinds of things when I was a new dad.
Right.
Because if somebody would have just said, you know what, just relax. Don't be so uptight. You're not going to screw them up so badly.
Right. They're not going to remember this 20 years from now.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. My kids are now 25 and 29, and they do remind me occasionally of some of the things I screwed up. But anyway.
Well, yeah, it was just meeting a need that I honestly wanted as a mom and didn't. So it kind of didn't have. And so that's how that business model evolved. And I was bought out of that. And we kind of just held on to that money and didn't do anything with it. But in the meantime, I was also doing contract work, doing event planning with some other people in town and learning a lot from them. And we decided in the course of that to start, I was using a lot of rentals, and I was just seeing some companies were doing certain things well and not other things well. And I was just learning a lot. And I just looked at my husband and I was like, I think we could do this better. Like, I have some really great ideas. And
what kind of items were you having the problem with, or did you feel like weren't being
just
done?
Just like hard items, like basic tables, chairs, dance floors, bars, linens. It was, everything, because we were doing the full scope of an event. So it was all over the place. And so we had to decide what we were going to start with.
So what aspect of that was not being managed well that you thought you could improve upon? Was it the delivery, the way you order, the range of inventory?
The quality. I would say quality, and just the whole scope of everything, like from the start to finish. I felt, if someone's a repeat customer, repeat client, like I just feel like they should get preferential experience. They should get a VIP experience. Everybody should get a VIP experience. But if somebody's coming to me often, I should know them personally. I should know what their needs are. I should know that that person's always going to want this kind of, just knowing people personally. And I didn't feel like I was getting that. And they were doing some things really good, but other things not. And so I was just kind of putting the things I liked about different companies, and I'm like, we could just do this all in one company. And so, that's what we did. And luckily, my husband is super supportive and very wants to just empower me to. He always says, like, he looks at me and he just sees something that like has all this potential, and he just wants to like walk alongside me in that. So,
and do you not see that?
I do, but he probably sees it in me even more than I see it myself. So
it's good validation that you're
right.
What you see, he sees as well.
Right,
and you're in sync.
Yeah, he's very, very supportive. So if he would have been like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard, I would never have done it. So luckily he said yes, and we did it. So.
Excellent. So back to your comment a minute ago about, the way people treat their customers. And one thing that's always driven me crazy is when these companies will give all these benefits to a new customer that they won't give to an existing customer.
Right.
And I understand you have to do something for new customers to get them to become your customer
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, get them away from somebody else. But then to not give that same benefit to an existing customer or whatever, it frustrates me.
Right.
Because the easiest way to grow a business is to leverage your existing customer base through referrals or whatever, and to keep that customer. It's so much cheaper to keep that customer than it is to get a new customer.
Right.
So why not offer some benefits to that existing customer
Right.
too?
And I know that there's other companies in Dallas even, but definitely in all of North Texas that do some of the same things we do. And so I have to make sure, like, what's making them want to come to us rather than someone else. And I really feel like having kind of a boutique experience where they can see everything. They have someone's cell phone that they can call and reach out to. It's not like they're calling this big switchboard and getting
Right.
who knows who. Like, they know me personally. They know our team personally. It used to be just me, but now we have a team, and I try to, hire people who value that like I do, and which is a whole nother topic, but
We'll get to that.
but yeah, I just like personal experience, and I know my customers. I know what they're going to want. A lot of our repeat customers are event planners and event designers.
So
in Dallas.
if I call you up for my second or third order, you don't say, "Give me your customer number so I know who you are."
Right? No,
You don't do
that
that?
should not happen. No.
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot, of course, as we all know. I mean, and there's some businesses where you just can't help it. Some businesses
Right.
have to scale and have to have huge volume, but doesn't sound like that necessarily has to happen in your case.
Right.
So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back in a minute. We are back. We're talking to Cassy Lawson of Lawson Event Rentals. Check her out online at lawsoneventrentals.com. So before the break, we were talking about how you kind of got things started and grew. And we were talking about the boutique experience of working with Lawson Event Rentals and how you guys aren't just, your customers are not just numbers. You actually know who these people are. Does that mean that you're smaller than you want to be?
No, actually.
Or does that go away at some point?
Right. No, I think a lot of it is equipping other people on my team with the same vision. It's like a vision cast. And so just because I might not personally be at every single, this week alone, we'll do about 20 events. And I can't personally be at every single one of those events. However, if I've equipped other people on our team well, they're walking alongside someone. And so there's always a point person on our team for someone's event. They don't get there and not have any clue who they can reach out to for something they need. And most of the time, one of us is stopping in on the job site to make sure everything was delivered correctly, everything looks great. Because a lot of times you're dealing with someone's once-in-a-lifetime event. I mean, some of them are just little backyard barbecues, but sometimes you're dealing with someone's wedding or their quinceañera or their bat mitzvah. And so those are once in a lifetime things, and they've saved a lot of money for that, and they've put a lot of thought and effort into it, and you're kind of a vital role in that. And I feel like we should take that seriously, and it shouldn't just be me taking that seriously. Our whole team should take that seriously.
Sure. So whenever you started, what was the first thing you did? Or you said it was just you. So, I mean, are you, Cassy Lawson, the one answering the phone, taking the orders and driving the truck with the delivery of whatever? I mean,
I've driven quite a few trucks in my day. I no longer do that. But yeah, when we started, it was Cassy Lawson answering her cell phone, and there was no office phone. It was Cassy Lawson figuring out everything they needed. It was me sometimes physically driving a truck, being at the dock. Obviously I would have some people helping unload the trucks, but I was looking at every single thing that came off the truck.
yeah, but how did you get it on the truck in the first place?
My husband.
Oh, okay.
No, I had a couple of just reliable hourly people I paid to come do loads. But, back then we would maybe have one event a week. And so I could do that. And
And what kind of product did you start with? Did you have the full range of products you have now?
When I first created the business model, I kind of created a 5-year plan of like what we were going to add to inventory and how we were going to grow, and what I call hard rentals. It's not as much of the decorations, but it's more like the tables, the chairs, the actual items you need for an event. And so we started with 500 gold Chiavari chairs. Somebody doesn't know what that is. That's like a wedding chair. You see those in a lot of weddings.
Chiavari.
Chiavari. It's a French word.
Oh, okay. Well,
Chiav.
I feel more cultured now.
Yeah, Chiavari.
And where did you buy these things?
I did a lot of research, and I found a company in China that we, through a course of events, I almost went to China to see the manufacturing plant, and we ended up not doing that because we knew someone who had personally seen it, and we verified a lot of things and just figured out the shipping process.
The quality was the big concern, I assume.
Quality, and making sure they were, because I was giving them a ton of, I'm wiring them a lot of money, and we're a startup, and so it's basically everything I have. And so I needed to make sure we were actually going to get these things, because I had quotes and deposits out on things and saying we were going to deliver them. I had to deliver it. So it was stressful, and luckily they delivered. And so we had 500 gold Chiavari chairs, 500 silver Chiavari chairs. And we started with that because I kind of had a client base who I'd been working with that I knew would rent those items. So that's how I decided what we were going to start with.
Now, why did you say you had this client base, but they hadn't been working with you before? They'd had to get their chairs from somebody else.
No.
Why did you?
I had a lot of just industry friends in the industry, from hotels and venues and other planners that I had worked with on events. And it was kind of like they knew me and knew my quality of work, and they knew I was venturing out and starting this. And so I kind of was just asking them like, hey, take a chance on me. I can do this. And so obviously there was a lot of pressure that first 6 to 12 months to like, it does not matter what it takes. I have to do what I said I was going to do, or all this is going to go away. And so there was a couple of people in the industry that at large hotels and venues here in town that took a chance on referring me, and we delivered what we said we would. And so that's kind of a thing that you shouldn't have to say, but you actually have to do what you say you're going to do. And
Seems obvious.
Seems obvious, but I found out some people don't do that. And so we don't actually do a lot of marketing. We just do what we say we're going to do, and that's kind of how we've built our company.
So people start talking about you when you actually do what you say you're going to do.
And I'm like, you shouldn't have to say that.
It's funny you say that, because in the business that I'm in commercial real estate, I deal with the tenants, and full disclosure, Cassy's company is a client of mine. And so a lot of times when I have a client who wants to renew their lease and just stay where they are, they will say, well, Bob, we're great tenants. We pay our rent on time every month. We've never been late. Shouldn't that count for something? Meaning, shouldn't we get some discount whenever we renew? And I was like, yeah, that seems like that would be something you'd like to get, but you're only doing what you're required to do.
Right.
The lease requires you to do that. So no, you don't actually get any credit for that.
Right.
You get dinged if you don't do that,
right.
and you get penalties. So but at the same time, if you have that track record, then people are going to start taking chances on you and
right.
giving you opportunities to do some things that they might not otherwise give you.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. So how long can you build a business on 500 gold chairs and 500 silver chairs, Chiavari chairs nonetheless?
Yeah, it was about 9 months in, we started adding some other things, which was, it's one thing to do something on paper, but then to actually do it. I had this idea, but I didn't know if this 5-year model was actually going to be able to happen cash flow wise. And so luckily we had said at the 12-month mark we were going to move into tables and some other types of chairs, because obviously everybody doesn't need a Chiavari chair for their event.
Yeah, I have an aversion to Chiavari personally. I have no idea what I like, but it's not Chiavari. I don't even know what that looks like.
Yeah, so I need to show you one the next time you come in. So we we were adding folding chairs and, little pop-up 10 by 10 tents. And, so about 9 months in, we added tables because, if you have a chair, you need a table most of the time.
Yeah, I would think.
And then we added, I was thinking I'm never going to do linens. I'm never going to do tablecloths because that's a whole nother thing.
Labor intensive,
yes,
I would think.
You have to clean it and they get damaged, and let's just let somebody else do the linen. Well, that didn't really work because if you're getting a wooden folding table, you have to have something to put on it.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, we'll just do the basic. Like, we'll just do like a polyester linen. Well, then they need napkins. And so it just kind of...
and then they need plates and
yes,
silverware to put on those.
Yes.
And
plates,
then decorations.
Yes. The plates and the flatware, what we call tableware, china, glassware, that was always part of the plan. But it kind of started coming faster than I realized we needed to get some things faster.
So the 5-year plan turned into a 18-month plan or 2-year plan or what?
No, about 2 years in, we had a little bit of a lot of things, and we just kind of kept growing in that. And honestly, it's really important to keep good industry relationships because you have to sublease from each other sometimes.
Sublease space or
no,
items?
sublease items.
Okay.
So like if somebody has an order that has all of these things on it and we're going to make money on all these things, but we don't have this one little thing, I'm going to figure out how to make it happen for them. I'm not going to be like, oh, sorry, we can't do your 30 napkins. I'm going to take care of it and I'm going to make sure we do it. We don't upcharge them for that. We just provide that item at whatever it cost us to get it. They could have gotten it from someone else in town so that they don't have to go to another vendor and do another delivery fee. And so that's also another way we've kind of built. If they have all these other things from us and we're going to make money on the deal, then we need to do these other little things to make it easy for the customer.
Well, and I was surprised one day, I told you this previously, but I was introduced to another prospective client, which had some sort of event rentals kind of name to it. And I went over there and looked at it, and it was basically this big furniture and lounges and chairs and all kinds of stuff that people will rent for a special event. And I asked them, do you know Lawson Event Rentals? Oh, yeah, we know them. We bring stuff to the same event sometime.
Right.
So you guys must all really be pretty networked and tied into each other.
You kind of have to know, for example, we don't do a lot of custom furniture or lounge furniture, like you were saying, but we have clients that ask for it. And if they want this one couch and they have 500 chairs and 50 tables and all this stuff on the order and they need this one couch, then I know everybody in town. And so I know who has that couch and I can just go get it for them and put it on our truck and deliver it for them. And it's a customer service thing, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. And so how many different, so we have somebody that's doing the couches and the chairs and all that kind of stuff, and you're doing all the chairs and more the Shivari chairs and the tables and all the linens and all that kind of stuff. So what other aspects are there to an event that, certainly a caterer.
A caterer, there's the florist.
DJ, the florist, okay.
And those are the people that are referring us and our partners in the industry. So we try not to do anything that is going to compete with them. I don't foresee us going into florals and starting to do floral arrangements.
Yeah, well, and that's such a perishable business. That seems fraught with danger from
it's
the very
a different
beginning.
business model for sure.
Okay, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Did you know DFW is home to a leading nationwide seed accelerator? Code Launch is an annual competition of startup software ideas produced by Frisco-based Code Authority. Attention, all technology startups in Texas, across the USA and around the globe. Apply through May 31st for your chance to win a professional hackathon team, win thousands of dollars in seed services, and pitch on our stage with your new code in hand. Apply now through May 31st at codelaunch.com.
Welcome back to the Next Level Show. I'm Bob Gibbons, your host, and we're talking to Cassy Lawson of Lawson Event Rentals, not Cassy Lawson Event Rentals. I think that was covered in the first segment. LawsonEventRentals.com. So you're growing, you're adding lots of different kinds of items that you're you're renting, and all this is, I assume, a direct function of what your customers are asking you to provide.
Right.
Because and I assume they're doing that because they just don't want to have to go to so many different vendors to get everything they need. They already have enough they have to go to, like we were talking about with the florist and the caterers and on and
Right.
on. So by you getting more stuff, they can have fewer vendors to deal with.
Right. And so typically you don't want a lot of rental companies on one event unless it's like a huge event and that's just required. So that's kind of how my business model was. I'm not going to go out and buy something that no one has put a deposit down for yet. I have kind of a running list of things that I know we want to eventually buy because I know they'll rent out. I know this industry. I know our market. But I'm not going to go buy something and let it sit in my warehouse and take up space.
Hoping somebody's going to want it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we kind of have this list, and as soon as someone gets a quote on it, as soon as they put a deposit on it, I'll go buy it because I know
you already know where to get it.
I already know where to get it.
How long it's going to take to get it.
Yeah, I've already priced it out. And so I'm just holding until we have a deposit.
It's such a good lesson. I mean, so many people buy stuff and hope. It's like, retailers. A lot of times somebody will go rent a retail space, put up a sign, and then just hope somebody walks in the door with no other marketing, which is insanity.
Right.
You got to have something. So your plan of getting the order and then going out and buying the material for it is brilliant.
And it's a little stressful to do it that way, but cash flow wise and making sure we're not carrying any debt that we don't need to, it's just the wise thing to do. But it is a little stressful, and it requires me to be very hands-on with the business. Like every day I see what's moving and what's happening, and it's not like 3 days later I find out someone put a deposit on something we don't have, and then I'm scrambling trying to get it. It's as soon as we know and as soon as contract's signed, we're buying it if we don't already have it.
Right. So if you're waiting until you have the deposit, are you then going out and having to get the loan to buy all this stuff, or are you funding all this out of cash flow?
Yeah, we've tried to build a company that's debt free, so we try to do everything out of cash flow. There's some little things here and there, but overall, that's what we've decided to do. It's been really hard, and there's been things I've wanted that I don't get because we don't have the money.
But are those things that somebody has ordered and then you can't deliver, or are those things that you just want in advance?
100% of the time we deliver everything they order.
Okay.
There has been times where someone orders something that I decide like, okay, we don't need to buy that. I feel like it's not going to rent out enough, and we'll just go sublease it for them if they have other things on our order. If someone calls for something that we don't have and it's not going to make sense for us to have and it's not part of our plan, I'll recommend them to someone else because I know what everybody else out there has. And so there are some companies that I'm friends with the owner, I know them, and I'll recommend them to someone else if we don't have the item and we don't have any intention of buying it. I mean, why wouldn't I?
It makes sense. So if I come to you and I say, I'm going to throw this fabulous event for 400 people and I need a lot of other stuff that you don't have, you'll go sublease those items from other people, or you'll direct me to those people?
Right.
Either one? I mean, how do you decide which you do?
If they have, over half the things they need we have, and we just don't have this small quantity of stuff, I'll just tell the client, I'll be like, hey, we don't have this, but I can sublease it for you so that we can get it all in the same truck and you don't have to do delivery fees and all that. Or if they have a planner, an event planner, that event planner will kind of help them decide that if they want to have a couple of different companies there on the job.
Because I would assume you need to mark up the item to cover your overhead and your risk and all the rest.
Right, to cover just our guys getting there, yeah. But I typically try not to mark it up more than what they would have to spend directly. So a lot of times we'll get a discount from, because I don't want them to have to pay more for an item that they could go get directly. But usually they don't, because if they had that item delivered directly, they would have to paid a delivery fee and a labor fee, and we're taking that away for them because we're doing it.
Right. So it still is going to save them money in the long run. Mm-hmm. So it would justify you charging more if you wanted to. And
if it helps us get this bid on this job, like maybe they decide they want to go try to find someone who does have all these things, you know?
Yeah.
And so it helps me because there's this large amount on the quote that I have. It's sitting in my warehouse. I need to be moving it.
Yeah.
So you have to be creative. You can't just think, oh, we don't have that, so I'm out, you know, or we would just sit with stuff in our warehouse all day that doesn't move.
Tell me about the competition. I mean, are there like just tons of companies that do this in DFW?
Yeah, there's about, I would say 10-ish now that have, and even within that, there's certain companies that have more of one type of item and less of another. But all of DFW, there's about 10 that
I used to do some events long ago, and I remember we would get chairs and tables and such. And we always rented it from Ducky Bob's. It was always Ducky Bob's. I don't know why. It just was.
They were one of the, back then, I mean, I don't know how many years ago this was. You might have just aged yourself. But
it has a 2 in front of it.
Yeah, I was going to say about 20 years ago, 20 to 30 years ago, Ducky Bob's was one of the main one. It was started by a husband and wife, Ducky and Bob. And,
really? Wait a minute.
Right.
Ducky and Bob was a couple?
They were husband and wife. And they had an awesome, like, from what I know, I didn't live in Dallas at that time, but they had an awesome business model and they ran a great company and they eventually got bought out. And so it kind of spiraled into several buyouts for this large company now. And so that is one of our competitors. They probably don't consider us as much of a competitor because we're smaller than them. But there's that, and then there's several other companies in town who do event rentals. Yeah, all in all, it's about 10.
So whenever you're doing projects or events and they have an event planner, is this somebody, I guess it could be somebody in-house like you were at the church, but it also could be somebody that they hire.
Yeah, there's some really great event planners in Dallas, and there's a lot of them, and they're busy all the time.
Now, I mean, I know a couple of event planners, wedding planners, and other kind of event. I don't really know that I distinguish between a wedding planner and any other kind of event because it seems like the wedding planners do other stuff and the event planners do weddings.
There's some planners who kind of specialize in weddings, but they can also take others. And there's corporate event planners that specialize in conference and corporate events. So
yeah, and I've known a few of those. I think Latrell Smart is one of the ones that I know that is big corporate events, and I have some friends in Plano that do the wedding and other smaller corporate events, planning and all that kind of thing. So when you're dealing with those kind of people, does everything just run smoother?
It is nice to work with an event planner, I will say. Not everybody has that in their budget, and that's fine. So we do have like a bride or just someone having something in their backyard that calls us directly, or what we get a lot is a business that wants to, throw a company corporate barbecue or a Christmas party, and their assistant is, the CEO's assistant is calling us and making the arrangements. And so I think that's another, me having an event planning background, and then me having taught our team those skills, I think that helps a lot because we know if we're dealing with a planner, here's the things that we really need to worry about, and they're going to worry about the rest. However, if someone's calling us that is, Jane Doe down the road, and she has never done an event in her life, and she's trying to plan her daughter's wedding, we're going to do a little more hand-holding and help her think of all the things, because it helps her and it helps us. Because if we get in on an event site to deliver and set up these items for an event and none of the other things have been thought through, it makes us look bad too,
Yeah.
And this is this girl's one and only day, and we want to, not screw it up.
Yeah,
so
you hope it's one and only.
Yes. We go into it like it's one and only.
I had lunch recently with a couple of ladies. They had 7 marriages between the two of them.
Hopefully we weren't involved in any of those.
Or all of them. Although that'd be a good repeat customer, I would think. But it seems to me like a lot of times the caterer sort of becomes the default event planner. I know a woman named Jennifer Glenn in Dallas, and she's kind of become the de facto caterer in the commercial real estate business. So a lot of these landlords will throw parties for brokers or for whomever, and it seems like Jennifer always gets that business. And I've known Jennifer for almost, 25, 30 years now, because she used to do this for me
Yeah.
when I was on the landlord side. So she will coordinate everything. I mean, including not just the food and the drinks and the tables and chairs and linens,
Right.
but also AV equipment and even games sometimes. If somebody wants to have some little game, that you have somebody play. It's just,
Yeah, she's definitely wearing the planner hat, probably even a little more than most caterers. But I will say caterers usually are bringing in the rentals. If it's an offsite event, they have a say in the rentals because they need to tell the rental company like what size plate they want and what kind of drink they're serving and what kind of glassware they want for that drink. And so we partner with caterers a lot, and most caterers don't have all the rentals they need. They don't own all the stuff.
Right.
So caterers are definitely a big part of our clientele.
Yeah, and we had Royal Catering was a guest on the show a few years ago, and it was fascinating because they do some really big events, and they own their own building, and I mean, I was surprised by the scale of what they'll do.
Right.
I would not want to be responsible for that if I could help it.
You have to be able to think on your feet for sure.
Well, yeah, and there's so many things that can go wrong. In fact, I also just saw recently there's an app that I can't remember the name of the app now, but it's all for personnel for events. So you have some event and you need it 2 days from now. You as the caterer or the event planner, whatever, can go on this app and say what you need, and this app goes out to all the people. It's basically the sharing economy.
Right.
It's the Uber for people in the catering business, and I thought that was pretty brilliant. In fact, I'm thinking about contacting them, see if they want to be on the show, because
That's a great idea.
Sounds pretty interesting. But anyway, we're going to take another quick break. Be right back. Hey friends, we're back talking to Cassy Lawson at Lawson Event Rentals. Go to lawsoneventrentals.com to learn more. Okay, so you're growing this company. You go from just Cassy Lawson to now you have this team. How do you grow the team? What was the event that started that you said, hey, I need help? I mean, we talked about loading the trucks, so you needed help loading the trucks, and your husband, and by the way, your husband is a coach and teacher at a high school in your hometown, right?
High school basketball coach, which means we had great access to high school kids.
I was just going to ask. That seems like it would be fortuitous.
Yes. So that did help us out a lot at first. I will say, as far as labor, extra labor, people who maybe they have a full-time job, but they just want to work part-time making extra money, we were actually able to get some really reliable, good people just through our network, like our friends and our where my husband works, and our church was a huge place that we went to find people. And when you have a connection to someone, they tend to be a lot more reliable than just Joe Schmo off the street that you don't know from Adam. And so that honestly was a huge crutch for us at the beginning. And we still used to, and we still do have a lot of people who comment on our delivery staff, like the professionalism, the quality of them. And I have other people in the industry who are always asking me where we find our people.
But that's got to be stressful at the same time, because if these people are sort of doing this on the part-time or on the side, or they're doing it, as a favor to you, however they characterize it, I can't believe that they're going to be quite as
because they can say no.
Reliable.
Yeah, they can say no, like, oh, at my kid's birthday party, or and so that kind of helped us at the beginning, and then in about year 2 is when we started hiring payroll full-time, you have to be at work type people.
Yeah.
And honestly, some of the best people we've gotten are just referrals. I just cast the net really wide, and as soon as I find somebody who has these character qualities that we're looking for, I try to snag them and just keep them, do whatever I can to keep them. And, that's not always about money. There's other intangible things that go into that.
So it's got to be, in your business, there's no predictability in a way. I mean, or maybe there is predictability and I just don't know it. But I would assume most of your events are happening on weekends, at nights, sometimes at breakfast or lunch, but probably not as much as at nights and weekends.
When we were smaller, it was definitely all weekend driven. I mean, I would spend Monday through Friday morning, chugging out stuff in the office and then at event sites on the weekends. As we've grown, we have events pretty much every day of the week now. But definitely it's heavier on Saturdays. I mean, Saturdays is the big day for events. Sometimes Sundays, but Saturday is the big day. So obviously for our delivery staff, our crew, those are the heavier days. So usually our crew's off on a Sunday and then they get a weekday off in there.
But otherwise, they're full-time with you.
Yes. Yeah. We have full-time people now.
So you get a lot of referrals to hire people. Does that pretty much take care of all your needs, or do you have to branch out beyond that to find these folks?
We've branched out, but the people who have stuck have been people that are friends of friends that hear about us. As we've grown, we've been able to add incentives and, benefits and things that you just get higher quality people as you grow and you have more access to more people. We have put out, things on websites, and I have found one incredible employee that way, and she has been crucial and essential to our growth, and I found her that way. But everybody else pretty much has been through word of mouth. So
interesting. Well, I hear people when they're unemployed, and I became unemployed 15 years ago. I got laid off. I'd been in the real estate business on the landlord side for 20 years. But then all of a sudden, the company that I worked for, they had some internal struggles with who was going to be in charge, and ultimately, the whole company ended up going away. They sold all the properties, and everybody got laid off eventually. So my time came 15 years ago, and I went through this program that is called the Real Estate Networking Group, where they teach you how to go out and find a job, kind of create a networking group to help people have a place to come and talk about it. And anyway, one of the things they said was, don't waste your daytime hours, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, sitting in front of a computer, filling out apps online, thinking you're actually looking for a job.
Right.
Because nobody hardly ever finds jobs that way. You got to get out in front of actual people face to face if you're really going to find a job. So as an employer, it sounds like that's not really what you rely on either.
Right. No, there are, the event industry is a very secular industry, like a lot of industries, and that's awesome. And we meet lots of different types of people. But I also was trying to build a business on like a Christian culture, a culture that cared about people and saw people for who they were. And a big part of that is getting employees who will buy into that.
Yeah.
So that's hard to do when you're just casting a net really wide. And so I just started talking to people in the industry. I would watch people on job sites, how they carried themselves, and not necessarily that they were a Christian, look at them and think they're a Christian. I wanted people who had character as well. They're just good people who have good character qualities, have integrity, morals, that I would want representing me, because I saw the future and that I wasn't personally going to be able to be on every job site. I need people who I trusted to, we have Lawson Event Rentals huge on our truck. Everybody's shirts say Lawson Event Rentals. Well, that's my name. And I don't want just anybody showing up at a job with my name on their shirt.
Of course not. Yeah, because they're all representing you. And so whenever you're hiring these folks, how many people do you have now?
We have 12 full-time employees, and then we have some part-time and then contractors. On Saturdays, we have a lot of regular contractors we use who just, come on the weekends.
So there's quite a few people that you're coordinating their schedules and everything else. So, I mean, again, you can't do everything. So are you the leader, the de facto leader for all of that? Or
no, we've kind of defined roles now. So I am founder and CEO. I do a lot of vision casting, but I do have some customers, clients that have been with me since the beginning, and I try to make sure I see everything that's going on with their jobs and stay in communication with them. And then we have some other, I just hired a COO, and so he's going to be doing a lot of our HR and our finance, the things that honestly I hate doing.
Is this a full-time person that's going to be on
Yeah, he's full-time.
Wow.
And so
that's a big step.
Yeah, it was huge, but it was getting to where I was, well, first of all, I'm a mom and a wife, and so
How old are the kids now, by the way?
They are 8, 9, and 11.
Wow.
So I ended up, spending a lot of my time at home on the computer doing things like payroll and accounting and figuring out what, negotiating our new insurance and, just all this stuff that I just that's not what I love doing.
Yeah.
And it was taking me away from.
You didn't get in the business to do QuickBooks and
No.
insurance?
I don't even want to know. I just want to see the bottom line, make sure we're good. But you have to find people you trust. And up until now, I just hadn't. And so we're at a place now where I've found someone that I can trust and who can take that and do it way better than I could do it. And so just finding somebody who has all those character qualities I was describing earlier to do it in that part of the business so that I'm able to be with our customers more. I'm able to walk through the warehouse every day and look and make sure our quality is good. And, so it's just doing the things I love more.
So as you develop other leaders within the organization, what steps are you taking so that the employees that are already there play along, or not play along, but acknowledge this person as a leader?
You have to hire a really great leader.
Okay.
You do.
But then you also have to back off.
Right. Yes.
That's got to be hard.
Yeah. It's yet to be determined. I mean, we are just now doing this right now. But I think it's going to be really good. I think having someone there who is the person who's taking care of the employees, making sure that our culture in the office, I can't be sitting in the office 8 to 5 every single day. I need to be out on job sites. I need to be meeting with people, but I also want to make sure that the morale at the office is good in the warehouse. I want to make sure that our employees feel cared for and taken care of, with benefits and their money, but also just they feel seen and heard as a person. And not that as your employer you should have to be all things to all people, but that's coming to work every day is a huge part of their life. And I want to make sure it's a place where they're being filled up and not drained out. And, it's hard.
Well, I know whenever anybody gets promoted, it changes the dynamics of the office. If you insert somebody new, it changes the dynamics of the office. I mean, when I was 25 years old, I got relocated to a new city and I became a manager. And now everybody in the office reported to me. Well, I was only 25 years old. I looked like a child still. And what I found was interesting is the first time I really got this aha that I'm no longer one of the guys was that they were all going out to happy hour after work and I wasn't being invited.
Right.
And I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Well, I was the boss.
Yeah.
And it was I went home and I told my wife about that. And I was like, that feels really weird.
Yeah.
And, but that's just reality.
Well, that reality happened to me today. The guys are doing their draft for March Madness, and they came in and put a bracket on my desk and invited me to do it. And I was like, I feel like you're one of you. Thank you for including me. But they know I love basketball and that I want to do it, and so they included me. It's like you want them to obviously respect you as a leader, but also you want to feel like they can come to you for anything and that you want to be a part of their life. It's this weird dynamic, but yeah.
Interesting. So what's, well, you know what? I can't ask you that question because we're out of time.
Okay.
We got to pay attention to that clock every now and then. Well, listeners, please go to LawsonEventRentals.com to find out more. Thank you so much for being with us today, Cassy. I really enjoyed it. And for the show, go check us out at thenextlevelshow.com. If you're on podcast or YouTube, just look us up. Use The Next Level Show as your search, and we'll be back next week with another great guest.
All right.